You're listening to People Are Animals Too, Darn It, with your host, Mandy Evans, Executive Director of Panhandle Animal Shelter.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of People Are Animals Too, Darn It. I have Eric Ridgway here as my guest. We were lucky enough to talk to him in a previous episode. Today, we're going to be talking about fear. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Mandy. It's great to be here.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself so everybody kind of gets to know who you are?
Sure. I am a professional counselor. I've been working in the mental health field as a professional counselor for over 30 years. I work with a variety of populations. I work with people. That's not all of who I am. It's what I do for a living, but I'm a community member. I love the community in which I live. I'm active in many ways. I am an advocate for animals. I have been involved with the local animal shelter for many years. I am a husband. I'm a father. I'm a person who has many interests in life.
Wonderful. In our last episode, we talked about, is it the 5 categories of emotions?
Yes.
Yes. Could you, let's revisit that.
So people sometimes think that the field of psychology, understanding human behavior and emotion, is like super complicated. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It is complex in some ways, but it can be broken down relatively simple in some ways. There's basically 5 categories of emotions. And these are categories, okay? So I'm going to name 5 emotions, but they're categories. So we have joy. And joy as a category incorporates into it happiness, excited, glad, all these words that go with it. But that's the basic category. We have sad. You know, I feel lonely, I feel hurt, I feel grief, I feel loss. That's sad. We have anger. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated. I'm annoyed. I'm bothered. I'm rage. That's the category of anger. So we have lots of words for each category, but that's the basic category. So joy, sadness, anger, fear is one of those categories. And in fear, we have anxious, we have terrified, we have panic attacks, we have go to the emergency room because the fear is killing me. And we also have excitement. People go on roller coasters because it's a little scary. And so we seek out scary movies, Halloween, going into haunted houses. So fear is a category that as a culture we go towards in many ways, but too much fear, the lion's coming after me and I'm in the woods, this is really scary, it's going to eat me. And the last category, the 5th category, is shame. And the category of shame is the least talked about in our culture and the least well understood by the general public. The population least understands this. So shame is the feeling of, I'm not feeling really confident and good about myself. I'm having a lot of self-doubt. If you were to know me, would you like me, or would you be judgmental of me? So it's often associated with fear. This of the self-doubt is, will this person think well of me? And it's not that shame, if I feel shame, doesn't mean I am a bad person. All humans feel all 5 of these emotions, all 5 of these categories. Anyone who says they doesn't have shame, they're in denial. We all have all of these emotions. It's part of being human. I believe that dogs, I'm a big dog lover, I believe dogs have all of these areas of emotions. Anyone with a dog has seen dogs, feeling bad after they've done something that they know they shouldn't have done. I think, and I can picture my dogs after they've eaten food off the counter because they were big enough to get to the counter, that they can feel that shame as well. They knew they weren't supposed to. So these are the 5 basic categories of emotion, and what we do with them has a large impact on our lives and how we get along well with other people.
Great. So if we're looking at fear, and you said it a little bit in your explanation, is that there seems to be good and bad associated with fear. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe how it's used in a good way and bad way?
So if people think about any of the emotions as negative, they're really limiting their perception and their ability to deal with their own lives. So emotions are neither good nor bad. It's what we do with them. I want to propose that fear is super important to our surviving. if I have no fear while I'm driving my car and I think I can go at any speed I want, drive through traffic in any way I want, there's a good chance I'm going to have car crashes. If I live in a part of the country that has icy roads and I have no fear, there's a very good chance if I like to drive fast and there's icy roads that I'm going to crash my car. Yeah. So fear can keep us safe by preventing us from doing something really stupid. I go rock climbing. If I have no fear and I say I don't need a rope, that could be really stupid because I'm not the world's best rock climber. There are some who climb without ropes, but most people, fear is going to help them stay alive. So it's a gift. It's in our brain. It's wired in to keep us alive. It's valuable. However, fear can be not our friend when it's making us worry about something that doesn't serve us well. Right now, Mandy, as we're talking, what if there's a meteorite coming from outer space right now and it's going to get us? If we start thinking about that right now, it's going to be really difficult to function in our lives because we're worrying about the meteorite. That's not going to serve us well. And so we have this, all these emotions, and we need to learn to manage our emotions, or we could be living in fear all the time. And that's not useful.
So is, just from that explanation, is fear then almost the lack of control or the idea of the unknown? Like when you're walking through the forest, and so I know that you like hiking and being outside, and I've always joked that it scares me because I know things are looking at me. I know they're looking at me and I can't see them and I'm very uncomfortable. And if I go on a hike, I'm thinking, okay, when can I be done? When can I be done? And then afterwards I'm like, oh, that was a lot of fun. But the whole time I'm freaking out about what is watching me. So really, is it like the lack of control?
So yes, that to some degree it is. Our brain likes predictability. So if you walked in the forest and you knew the only things out here are chipmunks and little birds, that predictability, there's only chipmunks and little birds here, could help you feel very comfortable, secure, and not fearful.
I want to go to that forest.
Right. If you think there's really big bears here and they're hungry, and there's lions and they're hungry, that uncertainty of where's the bear hiding, where's the lion hiding, that uncertainty could create a really, really uncomfortable situation, not just for you, but for anybody who feels like my survival could be at risk. And again, fear can be important. It's when fear is being out of control that it can start to limit our lives. So there are people who don't drive a car because they're so scared that they could have a car crash. Most Americans are driving cars, and they understand that there's some risk involved in driving a car, but they say, I can manage the fear and keep my car on the road, and I can manage the risk. And I've been driving my car to work for decades and am not so panicked that I stay home and I'm not going to go to work. And yet fear can get out of control where some people can't leave their house.
So do you think that somebody's ability financially to move through the world affects the level? I know that there are people who are really wealthy and they still have high levels of fear and anxiety. It's not that takes it away. I'm just wondering if people who are not in a really stable financial picture are more susceptible to fear messaging because they don't feel as secure.
You're bringing up a really good point. Our brain wants us to survive. If there is a threat to our survival, the brain's going to have a fear reaction to that. So someone who does not have money for food lives in a constant state of fear that someone who is flush with food is not going to have that worry. What if there is not food to feed my children? So absolutely, poverty is going to increase the level of the category of fear. So that could be anxiety, uncertainty. So these emotions that, I'm saying fear is the label for it. But if I know that I can feed my children for the next 3 weeks, I have a degree of comfort, a degree of predictability that's vastly different from the family that says the last time we ate was 2 days ago and we don't know when food's going to be available next. There's a far greater degree of uncertainty or fear or anxiety. So absolutely, when we know that if my car breaks down, I can pay to take my car to the shop and I'll drive my wife's car because we have this backup car. We are a 2-car family. That's very different than the family that has 1 car, it's on its last legs, and they have no extra money to take it to the shop. They're going to have a lot more fear.
So when you have a higher level of fear, does that... I'm thinking of, so I can phrase this properly, let's say that we recently did an interview with a veterinarian and we were talking about access to care, and that there's these people that are appreciating this wonderful bond with an animal, dog, cat, whatever it is. But they aren't able to afford your basic care. But they also are maybe not seeking out opportunities to receive help with that care. Does this have anything to do with it's triggering people's shame? They're not good enough, like this living in this fearful or this lack of control environment. Does that increase the shame to be able to receive the abundance that might be there?
So I think you're talking about a really important connection about shame and fear going together. With Americans being able to watch television or the internet abundantly, all of us would like to feel abundantly secure. And we see, movies and pictures and it's all over the place that there are wealthy people. All of us would like to have the security of great wealth. When people buy a lottery ticket, they're not wanting to make a donation to the government. Here, I'm paying an extra tax. They're hoping to get more economic security by buying a lottery ticket. And millions of people buy lottery tickets, every week. So they're seeking greater security in an economic way. There is a feeling that's super widespread that if I have less money, others may judge me as less valuable, less important, that there may be something wrong with me if I have less money. So the person who drives a really nice car is not worrying about, will my neighbors think I'm a loser because I drive a nice car? If I drive an old beater car, the worry could be there. Am I being judged because I don't have the money for a new car? And so the shame is that emotion of self-doubt and worry. And the more insecurity we have, whether it's economic or about my profession, my education, my intellect, how wise am I, we can worry about others judging us more. The more I have shame worrying about others judging me, the less likely I'm to put myself in vulnerable situations where someone could say, wow, Eric, why did you do that? That was really stupid. Or why didn't you bring your pet in for care sooner? Well, the answer is I didn't have the money. And yes, I love my pet, but I couldn't afford to bring my pet. And now I see that this is serious and my pet's life is in danger. And so I'm coming in. But when you scold me, shame me, judge me for not bringing in my pet 3 days earlier, I feel threatened by your attack on me and your judgment of me, and that makes me less likely to feel safe and comfortable with you. I want you to help my dog, but I'm never coming back here again because that judgment that you have of me is really painful and makes me feel not safe.
It's interesting because it's a cycle. Like, we created ourselves, so we have these high standards or high beliefs of the way that people should operate, and it comes from privilege. So
Right.
It's interesting because we end up creating the cycle
Right.
because we think people should be fit within this perfect picture, but it's not the way that it works, and it's actually a really privileged view
Right.
when you're able to say, well, you should have done this, because there are people who have a great amount of love and care for they're animals, they're children, a lot of things that are scared and feel to put themselves out and feel vulnerable, and then we shame them for showing their vulnerability, and then we get mad at them for not seeking help again. But why would they? We're blocking them off.
Mandy, you're hitting the nail on the head, and the should word, you should do that, they should have done that, that is the shaming word, because someone high and mighty is judging what someone else should have done. So that is creating shame by using that. They should have done this, they should have known that, is one group taking the position of I know better, shaming another group, and that is setting up a scenario of fear, because nobody wants to be judged. It is a basic human desire to feel secure, to feel valued, to feel appreciated, to feel belonging, I fit in. And as soon as we start shoulding on other people, they're feeling like they don't fit in, they're not doing it well enough. So we create a problem in our relationships. In the previous podcast, we talked about what did we talk about?
Influence. Like how do you're not going to influence those people when you divide and separate the two groups.
Right.
Off.
If we want to have a close relationship, if we want rapport, that was the word if we want rapport, we can't be judging people in a negative way. So as you were speaking a moment ago, I was thinking that I want to foster a culture of greater compassion. So when we say we have high standards, whose standards are they?
Right.
I want to foster a culture of compassion so that we seek understanding of other people. And their experience may not be as privileged as mine has been. And can I have compassion and seek understanding and empathy for them versus approaching them with judgment? They don't have the education that I have, the money that I have, the economic means, the running automobile that I have. They don't know the people that I know, so they may not be able to do what I'm able to do. And from my place, people with more privilege often assume everyone has what I have. And that's not accurate. And that is really can be very degrading to other people to assume I have no more privilege than others. Just by being in America, we have privilege that billions of people in other parts of the world do not have, just because we're in America.
Right. We have a lot of access. So going back to this idea of fear, I had a recent experience. It's kind of funny. I was on the phone with a salesperson that was trying to get me to buy something, and it was recommended to me, and there was, let's say, legal implications if I didn't do what they said I was supposed to do. And they started using this fear language, and I picked up on it right away. If you don't do this, the risk is this and this, and it was... And the way it was stated, everything, and I asked for, could you give me case study on that? Could you can I talk to the person that experience happened to? I started asking things, and they, oh, of course, and then they don't email me back. So I feel like fear is used to control behaviors.
Mandy, you described something wonderful, and as you're speaking, I'm thinking, they're trying to manipulate you.
Yes.
And they're using fear as their tool of manipulation. So this has been done for thousands of years, where one human is trying to get another one to feel threatened intentionally. If you feel threatened, then I can get you to do what I want you to do. This is the foundation of bullying. You were being bullied by a salesperson. Now they're trying to do it subtly enough that you agree to give the money. But the bully on the playground says, I'm going to beat you up if you don't give me your lunch money. They're not being finesse at all, but this can be done in marketing. And so one of the foundations of some types of advertising is your life may be going well, but it's not as good as if you were to buy this product. So if you buy this skincare product, your life will go better. There is a problem, and we can fix it by buying this automobile, this hairspray, this whatever. Because if you're totally, completely happy with your life right now, then you don't need the new skin lotion product, hairspray, or the new car. And so fear is being used intentionally to influence others in a way that's not necessarily for the other's best interest. It's manipulation for a profit. So when the tobacco companies were advertising on television to say you could be really cool like Joe Camel or the Marlboro Man, they were not looking out for the best interest of the public's health. They were looking out to make a profit. And they're using you could be really cool like this. And the implied is, the fear is, and you could be not cool if you don't smoke Marlboros or Camels or whatever the brand is that they're selling. So it's using fear to manipulate others to get what someone wants. And that is, so I want to foster a culture of compassion and empowerment. I want people to become aware enough to think critically enough that they can question everything. Because if what I'm saying I'm comfortable and secure with, someone questioning it isn't threatening to me. But if people are not questioning things, they can be manipulated much more easily. And I don't want anyone to be manipulated or bullied or cheated or, or worse, because other people have an intention of getting something in a non-win-win way.
Yes. So this is all great, but how do you help people build the skill of recognizing when this is happening? Or even, we have the coronavirus, and I recognize in myself that if I read, let's say I'm going through the news and I read like an hour's worth of, by the time I'm done with that, I know that my fear level is higher. And I've, taught myself to use logical thinking and try to go back and say there's only this many cases. But what's your advice to people who right now, media is a form of entertainment. And so media is always going to display the things that they feel are going to get the most attention. And unfortunately, that is usually something that is fear-mongering or, oh my God, that's a negative story. And you begin to believe that that is your reality when you watch it. So what's your advice to help people kind of see through that and stop having others manipulate the way they see the world?
You're bringing up a really good point. And much of media is set up to make a profit. And the saying, if it bleeds, it leads, on the 6 o'clock news or the 5 o'clock news, if there's car crashes and murders, they put that front and center because humans are drawn to catastrophes. Mm-hmm. So if it's really bad, if it's really horrific, if it's really scary, they can put that on because people get drawn to it like a magnet pulls them in. So how do we become less susceptible to being manipulated by others, particularly using fear, which happens a lot? I think it's a multifaceted answer. If the more we can understand our own emotions, and this is where I like people breaking it down to simple, I have 5 basic categories of emotion. What am I feeling right now? And just asking ourselves, what am I feeling now? Is it predominantly joy? Is it sadness? Is it anger? Well, if people don't know what they're feeling, I'm guessing it's fear or shame most of the time. Those are the emotional categories that we are easiest able to deny, to block out, to be unaware of, because they're so uncomfortable. They just feel so bad that we just try to block it from our vision. So we want to be aware, am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling nervous? Am I feeling worried? All within the fear category. And when we're noticing that, can we take a deep breath? Can we slow down? Can we calm ourselves? So if we're not aware of it, it's really hard to calm ourselves because we're not aware it's there. And so the first step is actually increasing our awareness. And so working with people who have significant anxiety, one of the steps to start with is just becoming aware of what is going on with my body, noticing in my body, am I feeling an anxiousness in my stomach? Am I feeling a tightness in my chest? Are my shoulders and neck tense? Am I clenching my hands? And just noticing. And then can I relax into that? Can I breathe? And so becoming aware, trying to relax, trying to tell myself, right now it doesn't look like there's an immediate threat to me. So if a lion jumps out, my body's designed to fire up the adrenaline so I can run real fast and get away from the lion. But if there's no lions right now, I may not want adrenaline flooding through my body as if I'm about to die. So can I work consciously to calm myself? So becoming aware of what emotion am I feeling, and then working to calm ourselves. And these are things we can do whether we're riding the subway, can I calm myself? Whether we're working on our taxes and going, oh, there's a lot to pay. I'm just going to focus on the here and now. I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to journey through life one step at a time. If I run too far ahead, I can create panic by thinking about something. Any of us could. Can I be more in the moment? And can I slow down? Can I take some deep breaths? Can I relax my fear? So we can consciously choose to calm our fear, or we could amp it up. I'll never be able to pay my taxes. I won't get them done on time. The IRS is going to audit me. And we could make our fear get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so we have an influence on our emotions, and we can feed them and make them bigger, or we could starve them and make them smaller. And this is the field of emotional regulation. Mm-hmm. We all have some agency, some ability to manage our emotions, and we can develop better skills at managing our emotions.
So I'm going to tell a story about myself that I think just learned how to do. So I've always had anxiety my whole life, and I don't know how different I am from anyone else, right? Like the level of anxiety, anything like that. I've always been somebody that pushes through fears. Like I moved to Brazil, and that was pretty scary, but I wanted to challenge myself. But it's the subtle things, like I know that my anxiety goes up around Christmas. And part of it is because it's a really important holiday for me. But I've now been able to recognize, okay, these thoughts of my children dying or these horrible things happening, I can stop and say, wait a minute, I pay attention. We did an episode on this called Brain Bullies. I pay attention to, wait, what is the message I'm telling myself over and over again? And pause and think about, why am I saying that? And then I recognize, okay, I'm about to go on a big trip, or it's Christmas, and this is stress. Your stress is leading your brain bullies to come out and play. And I'm able to say logically, like, today is no different than yesterday was, and yesterday was fine, and kind of go through the step. The other thing that I think has been like life-changing for me is to recognize that when I get really angry about something, which does not happen very often, there's generally one person that really sends me there, but we won't have that discussion today. It's always around fear or sadness. Always. And I can recognize, because I know that, now I can say I'm really angry. Why? Why am I angry? It's fear or sadness. So I look at these big things happening in the world, and now I pay attention, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that person that is really angry right now. And I try to evaluate, well, where's that coming from? We talked a lot about in the last episode is positive intentions. And I think kind of trying to dive into what people's positive intentions are helps as well. But also recognizing, okay, this person's coming at me and they're really angry right now. Why? Why are they presenting this way? Because in our society, I don't think that fear and sadness are as acceptable of emotions as anger.
I think you're absolutely right, Mandy. I think that humans want to feel powerful and in control so they can predict and control the environment around them. And if we don't feel powerful, if we don't feel in control, then things can be overwhelming and scary. And so if we can dominate the situation, And, our species is dominating the planet. We're dominating all the other species. If we can dominate everything, then we don't feel so threatened. So anger is perceived as a powerful emotion to be in charge. And fear is a vulnerable emotion. Sadness, hurt, loneliness. Those are scary. If I feel those, I could be further wounded, further scared. So I don't want the world to see that. So as a species, I think we put a lot of effort into hiding very often when we feel scared or hurt. A wounded animal out in the wild will try to hide that they're wounded because they become much more likely to be preyed upon if the predators see that that animal's wounded. So they will hide it. Humans are similar in that we'll often not let others see, I'm really lonely right now. I'm really hurting. I'm really needing help. And so we can hide our woundedness, our hurt, our fear. We can hide our shame, and shame is a biggie in with this. So if I'm worried that someone's going to judge me, they're not judging me at all because I haven't told them anything. I'm judging me, but my fear of being judged will keep me from isolated so I don't even ask for help. And so these are going together, which are making it hard for people to work together to make a better world. And if we can be vulnerable and talk about how we all struggle, it's universal as human beings. All of us have all 5 of the emotions, and that includes fear and shame and sadness. We all have those. We don't have to just do joy and anger, which make us look like we have it together, we're in control. Although when some people lose their anger, they look totally out of control and make a fool out of themselves. We need to learn to manage all of our emotions, and anger can be productive. If I see someone bullying another, I can say, that's not okay. That needs to stop right now. So we can use anger in productive ways as well.
And I think the sad part and actually scary part is that there's a lot of people with their own individual ideals, ideas that are very fear-based, and they're setting policies and procedures or policies for the way that we operate. That's why a lot of policies are set for the 1% and hurt the 99% because we're so scared that one person might take advantage of us rather than being open.
The more fear a person has, the more they want to try to control the environment.
Yeah.
But if you have leadership that's being led by fear, it's fear-based leadership that will not be good, sustainable, long-term team-building leadership. It becomes designed to make that person feel more safe. It can become very self-centered because it's fear-based versus faith-based. And I'm a big believer in faith allows me to talk, interact, engage with another without constantly worrying, are they trying to hurt me in some way? Can I drive my car with the faith that if it breaks down, some nice person will give me a ride to the shop or will let me use their cell phone to call the tow company, which I've had to do many times because I drive an old car, and I have the faith that someone will be kind and help me. And so I'm wishing for leadership to go in a faith-based direction versus a fear-based direction. Fear can lead us to become more and more self-centered. And I use the example of the drowning person in the lake. The drowning person in the lake are in terror that they're going to die. And their fear is so great, they can't focus on others. They're focusing all on themselves. Well, the more secure we feel, the more we can think about others' well-being and reach a hand out to help others. And the more fear we have, the more self-centered we become. And the more likely we are to abuse others and not even be aware that we're hurting others because our fear. So the drowning person pushes down on any object near them. So I have been a lifeguard. I'm a swimmer. I swim out to the drowning person. I say, I can help you. I'm a strong swimmer. I can get you to shore. if they can calm down enough, I can get a hold of them and calmly take them to shore, and it's not a problem. If they're really fear-based and they're pushing down, well, they're going to push down on my head. They just want their head to go up. Their intention is to have their head go up. They're not trying to hurt me. But even though they're not trying to hurt me, they could end up drowning me. And that doesn't save them. But their fear could make it hard for them to relax, so I can actually help them get to shore.
Or their fear actually creates the reality that they're afraid of, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can go, so when we're driving at night and we see a car coming towards us, if we put our focus on the headlights coming towards us, we're more likely to have a head-on accident. And if we look to the side of the road and say, I need to stay close here, we're likely to avoid the head-on. And people in driver safety teach that. If we tend to draw towards us what we focus on. So fear-based people are drawing negative experiences by looking out for fear all the time.
I just want to say too that people that have a lot of fear don't know it. Like, it may not be something, they're not waking up every day saying, I'm scared to death to do this, so these are my actions. It's usually just the natural actions of somebody who it's hard for people to recognize that they might have a lot of fear.
So we have the 5 basic emotions: joy, sadness, anger, fear, and shame. We also have a human condition of denial. And denial is I don't see something. It's not I'm stupid. It's not I'm bad. It's not I'm lying. It's that I can't see it. All of us have denial. So all of us have all these emotions, and all of us have denial. It doesn't matter if you've been a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist for 50 years, there's still denial. None of us can see everything within us. This is where feedback becomes so useful, because you can see things in me that I may not be seeing. So if I can trust that you're not trying to destroy my life and you give me feedback, I can thank you for your gift. However, if I think you're trying to just hurt me, I could feel threatened by feedback and I could become really defensive. So defensiveness to feedback is often because someone's fear is activated, but they may not be aware of it. They think, I have to defend myself, and they're not even aware. They're feeling under attack, or they wouldn't be defensive. And I want to share, as you shared a personal story about you, I have recognized I have been very defensive. I'd like to say in my past, and I don't do it anymore, but I'm trying to become more aware of when I'm feeling defensive. So this raising our level of awareness, if we're arguing with someone, when I'm arguing with someone, I'm not listening well to that person. I'm probably feeling afraid, or I wouldn't feel a need to argue, and I could just listen to them, understand they have a perspective that's different from mine, and accept that it's okay that their perception is different from mine, and that doesn't have to be threatening. So defensiveness is coming from fear. And we have a huge amount of defensiveness in the world. We could look at our defense budget. We have a huge defense budget. It's based on people could attack us. Now, I'm not saying we should have no defense budget. Right. I don't need to look both ways before I cross the street. Fear serves a purpose. Yeah. But am I a fear-based person? Am I fear-based in my leadership? Because that's not going to be expansive leadership if it's fear-based. If we want to make the world a better place, fear is not what's going to lead us most effectively to work well with others.
Yeah, and change. Change is usually very scary. And that's why it takes forever, usually, to have any significant and good change happen.
The human brain wants that predictability, and change is moving out of what has been the norm or the tradition, so people can be scared of something new. And this is where relationships with our neighbors, with our friends, with our church members, with anyone that we can have a relationship with, can build our faith and take us away from fear. I'm not alone in the world. You're there for me. You're there for me. You're there for me. I don't have to be alone. And therefore, I don't have to be so fear-based. And big change in the world happens when people come together to work together. That's how all the big changes of the world happen when people come together. And that's going to be more of a faith orientation of we can make something good happen than a fear orientation.
Well, this has been very informative. I've already thought of about 10 other topics that we could address eventually. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us, and I hope that everyone has found it helpful as well. We will have a link where you can ask us questions, share information, comments. We'd love to hear from you. If there are other subjects that you would like us to talk about, please feel free to share them. Thank you.
This was wonderful. I enjoyed it very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to People Are Animals Too, Darn It. You can send your questions or feedback to mandy@peopleareanimals2.com. MANDY@peopleareanimals2.com.